Good morning, folks. This is Anthony P., your coaching contributor for the NHL at the DFS Army, and also one of the lead handicappers for our Beat the Bookie service. Still a product from the DFS Army. Long overdue video that I wanted to make for our subscribers, how I could help you guys start building your own cash player list. What do we look in terms of value? What do we look in terms of goalies? What kind of tournaments, what kind of games should I play? So I want to try and in the next 15 to 20 minutes be capable of covering this with you guys. But ultimately my goal here is to show you guys how we could quickly start doing our own cash player list. That's going to help you be a lot more successful. In cash games, you need approximately 110 points, 110 to about 125 points to be very comfortable in cashing in GPP. Single entries, you could easily be in the low bottom of the cash line. However, 110 to 125 points puts you in a very comfortable spot in terms of 50-50s, in terms of double ups, and also in head-to-heads. I love to take my cash line and put it into single entry tournaments from $1 all the way up to 100 some nights. When you are capable of building a team with players that are consistent in terms of the return that they will provide you, when they all go off one night, you want to make sure that you're following that ladder and cashing at all contests. Nothing is really cash safe. However, I will show you guys a couple of things where you're going to say, wow, okay, great, this makes a lot of sense. However, Sidney Crosby won't be part of this list today because they're not playing, but he was last night, and he's had back-to-back games with 0 points, and last night I think he was at 1.6. So that totals 1 shot on goal in the last 2 games. Malkin also one of our top cash guys, and he hasn't been doing anything lately. So game theory has to be taken in consideration here. And talking to one of our subscribers by DM, I told him that yesterday if I had to fade a team, it would be Pittsburgh. However, very difficult to do on a 5-game slate when you know that they're going to be highly owned. So you got to sometimes follow the ownership, the chalk, so that you don't get stuck. However, if you decide to fade it and chalk fails, you look like a hero. However, chalk doesn't fail that much, and this is the proof. I will take you guys all the way to the far right of the document, and we're going to look at the FanDuel consistency rating. I want to get players that are going to give me most of the time a minimum of 10 points. Remember, we've got a lineup construction that we need to think about that's going to give us about 110 to 125 points. So if you've got guys that are giving you on average 10 points plus your goalie, you should be capable of reaching that most of the nights. So I like to sort this to descending, and let's take a quick look. In the last 20 games, 85% of those games, McDavid gave you a minimum of 10 points. Anyone surprised? No. Taylor Hall, out of the last 20 games, 85% of those give you a minimum of 10 points. You want to stay in the high 70s over here. 14 out of 16 games. You want to try and stay as in the 70s or more. This is where I am going to focus my cash list players. Yeah, but which ones do we pick? Which ones don't we pick? We'll get to that, right? But when you're looking at this dude right here, Timo, and that's still at 5,600. He's giving you 75% of the games, at least 10 points. It's just a no-brainer. You start by plugging this guy in. Something else that I like to do also afterwards is see, okay, so how is this player doing in his last 10? So 9 out of 10, 9 out of 10, 9 out of 10, 9 out of 10. So McDavid, Hall, Burns, and Mayer gave you a minimum of 10 points in the last 10 games. If this doesn't sell you, I don't know what will. In the last 5, you want to see if the guys are cooling down. You want to see if they're still being consistent. And what do we find? We still find them extremely consistent at 100% with McDavid, 80, 80, 80, 80, 80, 80, 80. So when you're starting to build your cash lineup, you want to start writing down these guys' names. So make yourself a list for centers, make yourself a list for wingers, defenseman, and go on. Surprise, Dale Larkin, you guys see him a lot on my lists, and now you understand why. He's been extremely consistent. Something else you want to do also is see, okay, how can I identify guys that are just getting hot right now? So when you're looking at the last 5 games, you can do the same thing over here and just descending, boom, let's see the names that are going to pop up. Look at all these hot guys. So in the last 5 games, you have Kopitar, Green, Dunn. So you know it's like, hey Anthony, can I use these as some of the value guys? Why not? Why the fuck not, right? So these guys could start going into your list also. It does not mean that they're gonna absolutely need to go there, but if they've got a favorable matchup, these guys could easily go into your list. You could go all the way here and say, okay, so out of these guys, so who's this Tarasenko? Okay, fine, but he's expensive, right? And he's just getting hot. Tarasenko does not fit in our top 5 to 6, 7, 70% or more, 10 points in the last 20 games. But you could look at players that are a lot less expensive that are getting really hot. Like a Dunn right here. Not bad, right? So I don't want to focus too much time here because I want to show you guys other things, and we've got 9 minutes left. So this gives you a pretty good idea of how you could start your morning, how you could start writing down some names, and then like where do I bring my attention to, right? And I just want to just sort this back here. Right, and then we want to look at, what is their potential in terms of scoring on the power play. All starts to be really, really interesting. McDavid, he's a beast, but when you're looking at Tampa Bay's power play killing, this might be a game where McDavid's line might have a little bit of an issue scoring on the power play based on their opponent. However, he still scores really high in terms of implied scoring chances for the player individually. These are things you want to look at. Something else you want to look at is, okay, he's really he's cash safe. Am I getting any value from going with McDavid? McDavid could cost $100,000. You still find value in him. Something else that I look at a lot over here when I'm trying to shorten my player list is, all right, what's going on with the salary? Is he too expensive? Is he underpriced? You could always compare with the websites here, but based on the projections that the research station has, do I have some value or not with him? We've got a lot of value on Burns tonight. We've got a lot of value on Mayer tonight. Right? We've got a lot of value on O'Reilly tonight. I'm going to look at this if I really, really need to. So this is 1, this is 2, this is 3 that I really focus on and look at when I need to shorten my player pool. So this kind of runs out how I begin doing my list, and then I'm going to get into the 5-on-5, and I'm going to get into the high danger scoring chances. I'm going to get into the Corsi 4s if I really need to go in there. But what I really look at a lot is how consistent the player is. Is this a favorable matchup for them? And game theory comes in when I need to fade or not fade a specific player. So it's a larger slate this evening. The game theory is still important, but that goes more for GPPs. Tonight I'm going completely safe. And you're going to see a lot of those guys in my lineup on FanDuel for sure tonight. DK, completely different beast, and I'll probably do one in the next couple of days. But this gives you guys a good idea of how we could begin. When we're looking for value plays, Roto Grinders is a really good source, and I'm going to go and click on centers, wingers, and defensemen. I'm going to bring my price range all the way down to, let's say, 4,000, and I'm going to look at what is the expected value. This is not as accurate as I would like, but it gives you a pretty good idea because the lines that are here are the lines that played last game or the last shifts of the last game. So it gives you a pretty good idea. Do I have any interest with But Genmark, I really don't. When I'm looking at value, I'm looking for guys that are playing in the top line and that have some power play exposure. So if we could get a guy like Goldobin, who's playing with two really hot players, who's on the first power play with them, if that is the case, so we need to validate. But even if he doesn't play on the first power play with them, these guys 5-on-5 play about 28% of the total ice time. He gets exposure to these two guys. He's 3,500. You lock this guy in. You don't look anywhere else. You lock this guy in. Now, this looks really good at 10 o'clock in the morning. However, there might be some changes throughout the day. So your value plays might go out of the window. However, this starts to give you a pretty good idea of where we could start focusing. What about this kid? Could be an option also, but I like Jake Allen tonight, and we'll get there in a couple of minutes. What about this dude? He was playing on power play 1. His price went up a little bit. New coach in LA. Gibson, another goalie I like, but if you're not going with him and he's on PP1 at 3.8, he might be a great option also. So my Twitter list, Beat Writer, sign up to it. You could find it pinned in the NHL channel. There's a lot of information there. It's a bitch to go through sometimes, but you get all the required information and up to date. That's what I use. I do not have any special contacts, nor do I place phone calls to try and find out. That's where the information is, and that's where I get it. Take a quick look back to the research station, and when we're going to goalies, how do I go ahead and pick my goalies? I like to always look at who's the favorites, and tonight goalies are going to be wishy-washy again. There's not big favorites. This year, for the first time, I am not focusing that much on the money lines, but if I have to just focus on that, here's a big favorite, but he's 9,400, I believe, on FanDuel, and there's absolutely no fucking way I am paying for this. So what I've been doing a lot this year, even if I'm not winning the games, my goalies are still giving me a very good return. And the reason why is because I am going to focus a lot more on getting saves than focusing on the victory. So big lineup, a big slate today, about I think it's 8-9 games. Goalies are important, but where I'm going to focus on is who gets a ton of shot on, and that's going to give me a high floor of saves, and the win just becomes a bonus for me. So when we're looking at a Lindqvist, who's played really well last game, and he's getting a ton of shots, they're back-to-back, but they could take the subway to go to Madison Square Garden, so there's not much travel, but they're going to be putting up a lot of shots on him. He could be a great option, and they're also a favorite. Fleury does not take a lot of shots on, so we're going to move with them. When I'm looking at Anderson, if you guys saw the video, what a mess. He's probably going to be peppered of shots. Here's on a back-to-back, the Devils. Fourth game in 6 nights. Small favorite. He could be in a good position to get you 20 to 25 FanDuel points with the saves. Same thing for Howard. Yep, they're hot. Very popular team, but again, gets a lot of shots. And why Jake Allen? Look at this, right? So the Carolina has regressed in the past week and a half. They're still taking a high volume of shot, but their high danger scoring chances have dropped. But they're taking shots at will from everywhere. Here's a great spot for St. Louis and Jake Allen. So I'm going to want to get 35 to 37 saves, and even if he allows a goal or two, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to be getting at least that 20 to 25 FanDuel point, which is what I need. Something else I'm also going to do sometimes is at Beat the Bookie, we've got a DFS and a betting model. There's a lot of value on Dallas, so Gibson might be a good pick as a GPP goalie. We've got the model team totals versus the Vegas team totals. There's not a big gap when we're looking here. Maybe Edmonton, we've got the model. Vegas has got a team total of 2.6. We've got them at 2.14. What do we do with McDavid? Do we still go ahead with him? In my humble opinion, yes. If there's going to be any scoring, it's going to come from his line. And if we're capable of going and get at least 10 to 12 points from McDavid, even if we're not 2.5 Xing on his salary, it's still consistent, and we're avoiding any type of large variation with him. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. If you got any questions, hit me up in our VIP chats. Let's make some money tonight. Take care, guys.